The wind sliced through New York City like a sharpened blade, carrying snow that fell in heavy, relentless flakes, blanketing the sidewalks and muffling the city's usual cacophony. At a nearly deserted bus stop on the corner of 56th and Madison, under a flickering street lamp that buzzed faintly, Henry Miles stood hunched in his fraying olive jacket. His gloved hands clutched a worn manila folder to his chest, its edges curling from months of handling. Inside were 5 resumes, each one a silent rejection, their pristine pages a stark contrast to the weight of his reality. He exhaled slowly, his breath forming fleeting clouds in the frigid air. At 46, Henry was a former structural engineer, a widower, a father, and, for now, homeless. The word landed heavily, like the snow piling at his feet, a truth he couldn't outrun. The red glow of a nearby pharmacy sign blinked 8:41 p.m. The bus was late, as it often was in weather like this. Cold seeped through Henry's worn boots, numbing his toes, and he shifted his weight, trying to coax warmth back into his legs. His eyes, tired and shadowed, scanned the empty street. Just another night, he thought, another ride to nowhere. But then, through the swirling snow, a figure emerged. A woman, mid-30s, appeared, her heels clicking faintly on the icy pavement. She wore a tailored business skirt and blouse, no coat, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as if to hold in what little warmth remained. Her dark hair, damp from the snow, clung to her face, and her hands trembled as she rubbed them together, failing to chase away the chill. Henry tried not to stare, but her presence was striking, polished, professional, yet clearly suffering in the cold. She stopped under the same awning, a few feet away, her breath coming in short, sharp bursts. He glanced at her, then away, focusing on the distant lights of the city. Just another stranger, he told himself. But the wind howled again, a bitter gust that made her flinch and curl inward, and Henry's gaze flickered back. His jacket wasn't much, thin, patched in places, barely enough to keep him warm, but it was something. He could keep it, stay silent, blend into the city's indifference like everyone else. But something in him stirred, a quiet instinct he hadn't felt in years. Without a word, he shrugged off the coat. The cold bit into him instantly, sharp and unforgiving. He stepped toward her and held it out. She looked up, startled, her eyes wide. "You don't have to do that," she said, her voice soft but firm, as if unaccustomed to kindness. Henry managed a tired smile. "I've already lost enough today. This coat, it's the only thing I have left to give." She hesitated, her gaze flickering between the jacket and his face. "But you need it more than I do." "Not tonight," he said gently, draping it over her shoulders. The warmth enveloped her, and she pulled it tighter without meaning to. It smelled faintly of soap, maybe coffee, and something intangible, comfort, perhaps. "Thank you," she whispered, almost inaudible over the wind. He nodded, folding his arms against the cold. They stood in silence, the snow falling like a curtain around them. After a moment, she turned to him. "What's your name?" "Henry." "I'm Clare." "Nice to meet you, Clare." She glanced at him, her eyes searching. "You shouldn't have given me your jacket." He smiled faintly. "Probably not, but I couldn't just let you freeze." The low rumble of a bus broke the silence, its headlights piercing the snowy haze. Claire moved toward it, then paused, turning back. "Do you have somewhere to go?" Henry shrugged, his voice steady but evasive. "Somewhere." He didn't mention the rusted '98 Chevy parked behind a warehouse, its backseat his only shelter. She reached into her purse and handed him a business card, crisp and embossed. "In case you ever need anything." He took it, slipping it into his folder without looking. He'd received cards like this before, gestures of politeness, rarely sincere. Claire stepped onto the bus, the jacket still wrapped around her like armor. She glanced back once more, her expression unreadable, before the doors hissed shut. Henry watched the bus disappear into the snow, then turned and walked into the night, the cold biting deeper now, but something small and warm flickered inside him, something he couldn't name. Dash dash dash. Henry's boots crunched through the snow as he navigated the quiet back streets, the city's pulse fading behind him. There was no rush, no one waiting, no lights left on in a window. His destination was the same as always, the old Chevy, tucked behind a crumbling warehouse on the city's edge. He reached it just after 9 p.m., the truck's rusted frame half buried in snow. Inside, the front seat was a makeshift home, a nest of blankets, a flattened pillow, a lunchbox stashed under the dashboard. He climbed in, shut the door, and let the silence settle over him. From the glove compartment, he pulled a small tin box, its edges dented from years of handling. Inside was a faded photograph. His wife, Lily, her smile bright as summer, and their son, Noah, about 7, with a crooked grin that mirrored hers. "Good night, Lily," Henry whispered, his voice barely audible. "Good night, Noah." He leaned back, eyes tracing the cracked ceiling of the truck, memories washing over him like a tide. Once, he'd been Henry Miles, structural engineer, a man who built things, schools, homes, hospitals. He and Lily had a modest house in Queens, filled with her laughter and Noah's endless questions. They weren't wealthy, but they were content, their life stitched together with small joys. Sunday pancakes, Lily's kindergarten stories, Noah's crayon drawings taped to the fridge. Then came the diagnosis: stage 4 breast cancer, discovered too late. 9 months later, Lily was gone. Henry left his job to care for her, pouring everything into her final days. After her death, the world unraveled. Medical bills piled up, savings vanished. He sold the house, moving with Noah into smaller apartments, then a single room, until there was nothing left but the truck. He'd done his best to shield Noah. The truck's backseat became a spaceship, canned soup an adventure, a parking lot their backyard. Every morning, Henry walked Noah to school, clean-shaven, shirt tucked in, determined to be the father his son deserved. "Why do you still cut your hair?" a shelter worker once asked. Henry had smiled. "Because my son needs to believe things can get better, and I need to look like I believe it too." He took any job he could find, moving furniture, fixing gutters, sweeping construction sites. It wasn't enough. Last fall, a social worker intervened, citing Noah's need for stability. Henry didn't argue, he knew they were right. Through tears, he signed the papers, hugged Noah tightly, and promised, "Just for now. I'll come back for you." Since then, every day had been a grind. Resumes sent, job fairs attended, library hours spent studying building codes. Tonight, though, the weight felt heavier, the plan further away. Sitting in the cold truck, Henry rubbed his arms for warmth, his thoughts drifting to Clare. Her shivering form, the surprise in her eyes when he offered his coat. He didn't know why he'd done it. Maybe she reminded him of Lily's quiet strength. Or maybe he just needed to feel like he could still do something good, be the man who gave more than he took. He pulled a blanket over himself, leaned against the cold window, and closed his eyes. He had little, but he had himself, and for now, that had to be enough. Claire stepped into the sleek lobby of her apartment building, the warmth a stark contrast to the biting cold outside. The doorman's polite nod went unnoticed as her heels clicked across the marble floor. She was still wrapped in Henry's jacket, its weight both foreign and grounding. She hadn't meant to take it, had tried to refuse, but his insistence, quiet, unyielding, had silenced her protests. In the elevator, she caught her reflection in the polished doors, a powerful woman in a threadbare coat, an image that felt both wrong and right. Her penthouse on the 28th floor was silent, sterile. No music, no laughter. Just the hum of appliances and the distant howl of wind against thick glass. She dropped her purse on the entryway table and began to remove the jacket, pausing when her fingers brushed something in the inner pocket. Curious, she pulled out a folded piece of paper, its edges worn and smudged. Unfolding it carefully, she found a child's drawing. 2 stick figures under a crooked sun, labeled, "Dad," and "Me," a small heart between them. At the bottom, in shaky handwriting, "I love you, Daddy." Noah. Claire froze, the drawing trembling in her hands. Her throat tightened, and she sank onto the couch, the jacket still in her lap. Noah. The name echoed, unlocking pieces of Henry's story, the folder he clutched, the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight in his voice. This wasn't just a man who gave his coat. This was a father carrying his child's love in his pocket, a man with nothing who still chose to give. She looked around her apartment. High ceilings, designer furniture, glass walls devoid of personal touches. A space built for success, not warmth. She folded the drawing carefully, hugged the jacket close, and let tears come, tears she hadn't shed in years. Not since she was a girl, cold and hungry on church steps, when a stranger named Thomas wrapped his coat around her and told her she'd be okay. That moment had changed her, set her on a path from foster homes to scholarships to building Infinity Group, a tech empire. But somewhere along the way, she'd forgotten what it meant to need, to give. Henry had reminded her, and now, holding his jacket, she felt something crack open inside her, not broken, but alive. The next morning, Claire sat at her desk, her coffee untouched, the skyline sprawling beyond her office's floor-to-ceiling windows. She held No's drawing, its crayon lines now memorized. She hadn't slept, haunted by Henry's act of kindness, his quiet dignity. She rang a small silver bell, and her assistant, Rachel, appeared. "I need you to find someone," Claire said, her voice steady. "His name is Henry. No last name. He was at the 56th and Madison bus stop last night around 8:30. He gave me his jacket." Rachel blinked, surprised. "Of course. Any other details?" "This stays between us," Claire added. Over the next few days, her team worked discreetly, pulling traffic camera footage, tracing bus routes, cross-referencing data. They found Henry Miles, former structural engineer, no recent employment, no permanent address. A prepaid phone number linked to job forum posts. A grainy photo from an expired license. Rachel delivered a thin folder. "He's been seen near a warehouse in the Bronx, sleeping in a '98 Chevy." Claire closed the folder, her jaw tight. "I want to go there." Rachel hesitated. "Are you sure? We could bring him here." "No," Claire said. "This is personal." An hour later, Claire's sedan pulled up near the warehouse. The air smelled of rust and damp concrete, the snow piled high. She spotted the truck, its tires half buried. Through the windshield, she saw Henry's silhouette. Her heels crunched as she approached, and the truck door creaked open. Henry stepped out, blinking in the daylight, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition. "Claire," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "What are you doing here?" "I came to find you," she said simply. He frowned, crossing his arms. "Why?" "Because I couldn't stop thinking about what you did. About the kind of person who gives his only coat to a stranger." He gave a bitter laugh. "A thank you card would have done." "It's not about thanks," she said. "It's about not letting something good disappear." They stood in silence, two people from different worlds, connected by a single act. Henry exhaled. "You came all this way for that?" "Yes," Claire said, "and maybe something more." Weeks later, Claire watched Henry from her car at a Queens construction site. He moved cinder blocks with steady precision, his flannel shirt rolled up despite the cold. When he took a break, she approached, holding out a coffee. "Thought you might like something warm." He took it hesitantly. "You really didn't have to." "I wanted to," she said. "Come with me. I want to show you something." Henry's foreman nodded, and they drove to Infinity Group's headquarters. In the marble lobby, Henry hesitated. "I don't belong here. Just come upstairs," Claire urged. In a private conference room, she slid a folder across the table, a job proposal for a cultural and human values advisor. Henry frowned, flipping through it. "What is this?" "A new role," Claire said. "You'd help shape this company's heart, its values, its people. You know what it's like to be invisible, yet you gave your coat to a stranger. That's leadership." Henry shook his head. "I'm not qualified. I sleep in a truck." "You don't need a degree to teach kindness," Claire said. "You live it." Henry looked away, overwhelmed. "I need to think about it." Claire found him later on a bench outside, the proposal unopened. She sat beside him. "You haven't looked at it." "I know how this ends," he said. "Someone like me doesn't fit in your world." "Come with me," she said. 1 hour. They drove to Thomas's place, a community center Claire had built for foster kids. Inside, laughter filled the air, walls bright with handprints and quotes. Claire shared her story, her childhood, the night Thomas gave her his coat. "You remind me of him," she told Henry. "Not because of the coat, but because of who you are." Henry's eyes welled up. He nodded, not for the job, but for the feeling of being needed again. Henry's first day at Infinity Group was quiet. He shared his story, losing Lily, Noah, his home, with honesty, not pity. Employees listened, then sought him out. His small office became a haven, filled with plants and a coffee pot. With Claire's help, Henry secured a modest house in Brooklyn, reuniting with Noah, now a college freshman. Their first dinner together was simple, but unforgettable. Claire and Henry grew closer, their lunches turning into evenings, their bond unspoken but deep. One evening, on the company rooftop, Claire said, "You've changed this place, Henry." He chuckled. "I just reminded them what they already knew. And me," she added. At the One Kindness Day event, Claire unveiled Henry's coat, framed with the words, "One small act can rewrite a life." She presented Henry with the deed to his house. He, in turn, proposed with a simple ring, his voice trembling. "You gave me back my life. Will you marry me?" Claire nodded, tears streaming. Yes. Their wedding at Thomas's place was modest, filled with mismatched chairs and paper flowers. Claire's vow, "You gave me a coat. Tonight, I give you my life," echoed through the room. A photo of them under the center's sign, with the coat displayed, went viral, a testament to kindness's ripple effect. Henry didn't have much, but he gave what he could. In return, he found love, purpose, and a new beginning, proving that the smallest gesture can echo forever.